Hello and welcome to the ID Talk podcast. My name is Peter Counter and I am the editor-in-chief of Find Biometrics and Mobile ID World, which are constantly reporting on the latest innovations of digital identity in the healthcare space. And that is the topic of this latest episode of ID Talk, recorded live at the 2023 HIMSS Healthcare Conference. Identity and access expert Doug O'Gordon was on the show floor at the conference, and that's where he caught up with Daon's president of new industries, Conor White. Their conversation begins with an overview of Daon's work in the healthcare industry before digging into the factors that have contributed to the sector's historically slow pace of biometric adoption and why that's all about to change. White gets into the importance of multimodal flexibility in healthcare, and he concludes by running down the new markets that Daon is pioneering, as well as offering some insights into the intersection of biometrics and generative AI. It's always a pleasure having Conor on the podcast, and this episode is no exception, so let's get to it. Here is Doug O'Gordon in conversation with Daon's Conor White, recorded live at HIMSS 2023.
Hi, Find Biometrics and Mobile ID World listeners. Doug O'Gordon here. I'm live at HIMSS 2023. I'm sitting down with Conor White. Conor's the president of new industries at Daon. Hi, Conor.
Hi, how's it going, Doug?
Pretty good. Thanks for breakfast.
Oh, you're very welcome.
First question. Anyone who's new to healthcare or is in the healthcare market, that is, and is new to Daon, what do you do?
Sure, thank you. So Daon we call ourselves the Digital Identity Trust Company. And in a nutshell, we enable healthcare organizations to easily proof, verify, and authenticate their patient and provider identities through all business channels that they conduct business in, including web, mobile, contact center, and very importantly, in person, for example, in a pharmacy or a doctor's office in a hospital. Our solutions are transforming modern healthcare by improving patient engagement, helping providers spend more time on providing core health services and not the administrative that goes around that, ensuring equitable access to healthcare, securing health records, and improving revenue cycling for these organizations, which is obviously very, very important as we drive the efficiencies through the healthcare system.
Great. And I haven't been to the show yet, but when I get to the show, it's sort of like finding customers or finding clients like you. It's like a needle in a haystack at the moment, but I see healthcare coming on as the next big vertical market in biometrics. Now, why isn't healthcare racing towards the use of biometrics?
Great question, and I think it's beginning to. I think we're actually at a point where, if you look at the trends that are happening, we have a couple of things that are fundamentally changing the use of identity and digital identity in healthcare. And to date, it's been paper-based. When you go to the office, you fill out a load of paperwork, and it's annoying. People don't want to go to the office anymore. You're seeing fraud rates. In 2019 alone, there was a 71%, I think is the number, 71% increase in theft of compromise of health medical data. Right?
They'll see it. Like see one of those in person.
The latest statistic I read was that the price for a health record is 20 to 50 times the price for a financial record on the dark web right now. Because health's very personal. It's extremely personal. As I was sharing with you earlier, I've had my identity, my credit card years ago was used for a purpose that wasn't me. It was a hacker. I called my credit card company and I got the money back. You can't call your doctor and ask to be made well again if you've got some sort of disease that's now in the public domain or some illness that's in the public domain. So it's the most personal of data. And the only way to protect the most personal of data is to use the most personal ways of authenticating the person, which is putting the human back in the loop. And I firmly believe that almost all cyber attacks today are because we don't put a human in the loop. We put in proxy, a password, an IP address, a token.
OTPs.
The KBA is the worst of all knowledge-based questions, right? Which, quite frankly, everybody has the answers to. These things, they create friction for legitimate users and easy access for criminals, right? It's the worst of all worlds. Just put the human being back in the loop. And when you do that through biometrics, you actually make it a frictionless experience. And so what happened 10 years ago and over the last 10 years is in financial services, because of the financial fraud rates that we're seeing, we grew a tremendous business there. with key customers globally who needed to solve that problem. And now we're seeing the same thing in healthcare and other markets. And that's really the fundamental thesis that's driving, I think, the adoption of biometrics today in healthcare.
So keeping focused on healthcare and us at the show, I'm sure you've gotten this question multiple times on the show floor is what's the best biometric for healthcare?
Yes. The best biometric healthcare is the same. The answer is the same as it is for financial services, for gaming, for automotive, and for a person.
That was a loaded question, by the way.
That's okay. Yeah, I love it. It's choice. There is no best biometric and there's no worst biometric. We're all human. Every human is different, and our choices are different. Our environment at any given time is different. So,
Well, I think that's why I asked that, because in the healthcare field, you may have a mask on or
Exactly.
you may have gloves on.
I may be wearing PPE. Right?
Yeah.
And so, excuse me. That's
No problem.
so I might be wearing PPE, I might be wearing gloves, but maybe facial recognition will work through the glass.
Exactly.
I might be in a dark room or something, and I might want to use my voice. And it's whatever biometric is best to suit the use case at the time.
Sure.
And it'll change even for the same use case in the environment in which the practitioner or the patient
Is in.
I mean, if I'm driving and I'm trying to authenticate myself to a health portal just to get something, I might use voice. I might be talking to a voice
That's great.
assistant.
I mean,
face,
multimodal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the real reason why I'm sitting here next to you, what are you showing at HIMSS?
Great question. So we are showing a lot, right? We are showing. I was answering a question yesterday. Tell me, give me one soundbite that describes what you're doing. I said 30 seconds. Excuse me. I said in 30 seconds, I can show you how we can onboard a patient, verify their identity against the driver's license, for example, make sure they are who they claim to be, have biometric matching against the identity document, including liveness to make sure it's not a video or a fake picture, and then capture their insurance information and any other information needed. So we basically can make that process minimal friction. We can also, because we're seeing a big trend in the industry right now of clinicians, nurses, and doctors moving around between hospital systems on a temporary basis for surge, being able to verify a provider's identity, and not just their actual identity, but their credentials, their nursing certificate, their
what are they qualified to do?
Exactly, and so we can do that. We can also, we are showing today, if you go by, you'll see.
Oh, I'm gonna.
Yeah, please do. Patient portal access. And getting in. Today, there's so much data online and so many different systems, and patients they're getting confused, and elderly patients are having a really hard time remembering all these passwords. Which system do I use? So we make that a very seamless, frictionless, and more secure process. And then, call center, you can call a play center, and in 4 to 6 seconds of voice, I can authenticate you much higher than I can with any kind of knowledge-based authentication or phone number lookup or any of that sort of stuff. And then lastly, something that's really interesting and very new is secure dispensing of medications. So think about the pharmacy of the future. Hospitals have to be pharmacies, but also, regular retail pharmacies. You go in, you maybe 10 minutes in line, then you have to answer your first name, last name, date of birth, your address. It takes a long time, and it's not a very private experience. What if I could go in and prove my identity in a kiosk or a secure locker type environment, and the meds we dispense immediately? And it could be very personal. It could be a prescription I'm picking up after hours from my son who has asthma, right? I could get that. There's no pharmacist working, but they could preload it for me.
Oh, that's great.
Or it could be Sudafed. Right? So in that case, I need to be over 21, and we can check the precursor databases, the state databases, to make sure you're not buying it every day and starting a med lab. This can all be automated, so you have efficiency for the consumer, very important, because that means that they want the technology they adopted. And you have operational efficiency for the pharmacy, reduce costs, higher scores, customer retention, right? And we're just modernizing that whole thing and that whole approach.
Mm-hmm. And then just to add, what other markets?
Sorry, that's with a partner of ours. So they'll be there again today as well. You can see
who is your partner?
BizBoxes in this case.
Okay.
There's a great startup company. They're really, really good. Love working with these guys. Very innovative, and you can see that they're on tech. It's integrated into their offering, and what's really important is it's a continuum. I often talk about identity continuity. As a patient, I can register on a portal, I can go through my hospital, my doctor, and my pharmacy, all with the same single core strong identity.
Well, and then real quick, because I want to ask you this last question, but what other market innovation breeds innovation? So we're talking healthcare today, but where do you see that box fitting into other markets? Where do you see your technology? What industries do you see?
Yeah, so we have 3 to 5 minute interview.
Right.
I could spend 3 to 5 hours on this. There's so much. Very quickly, the areas that we could be interest and we're getting customers in these markets are gaming, age verification within the gaming context, compliance with regulations within gaming. We're seeing a big uptick in automotive, and I recently sat with a studio partner customer of ours and saw their vision for the future and the connected cars, and it is nothing like the car you think we drive today. I think I see a tremendous market in that. I see sports arenas, and honestly, it's everywhere. The world is moving. It's just moving to a whole.
Everybody's transforming.
Yeah, and a whole new level of trust is needed in so many more transactions are of consequence. So many companies that are in one area are actually providing services where they need to know who they're talking to, and for that, the only thing that scales. You can't create more passwords for people. You can't create more websites with different user ID and password. It just cannot scale. The only way to solve this problem is to put the human back in the loop, to make sure that at the end of the transaction, when you're authenticating somebody into a service, it's the right person.
You are who you say you are.
You are who you say you are. You are who you are.
All right, so last question, and this will probably take 20 minutes, but let's make it a minute.
Yep.
Where do you see ChatGPT fitting into all this biometric stuff?
Yes.
How about just with healthcare? We'll start with healthcare.
Yeah. Well, it's what's in healthcare is actually in everything, right? I mean, a very quick answer to it. So ChatGPT is, and the whole generative ML. ChatGPT is one example. It's the first baby born in that area, and there's more coming, right, every day. And I love it. I've been using it since the day it came out. Most people have, right? And so what it does, let's take it in just simply in a hacking context. We all get these phishing emails. We get like 10 a day, right? Dearly beloved, or your Coinbase account is on hold. No, and they're generally not well written, right? But they're getting better. What ChatGPT does is, because it's generative machine learning, it hyper personalizes the interaction, and it understands conscience. So I can feed it data about you, and it can generate a very sophisticated attack. And then you get into the future where you combine it with other things like vision learning or speech, generative speech generation. So we can now have a conversation with a bot. We could have that conversation. One of the greatest heroes in the last 100 years is a guy called Alan Turing. I don't know if you remember. Sure. It was a fantastic person, saved many, many lives, vilified for some other stuff, which was unfair. But he defined the Turing test. The Turing test is done. It's, I mean, we've blown past that test in actuality, because I could build something that would fool you, and you think it was me just on a Q&A back and forward. Right? Your readers don't know this, because I'm actually here right now, but I could be.
I was going to say, are you really here?
Yeah. But again, the way to defend against that is by putting the human back in that transaction and bringing biometrics into it, right? And so there's defenses there. So to net it all out for you, ChatGPT is a great piece of technology. It's part of our future. We can't undo it, right? We have to manage it carefully. And it's not just ChatGPT, it's that whole area of AI, but we also need to guard against its use for nefarious purposes, which is happening today. And it's very hard to defend against. The single best way is through strong digital identity and putting the human back in the loop.
I love it. Thank you for your time. What is the best way for our listeners to get a hold of you if they have more questions about Daon?
Sure. Our website's always the best, www.daon.com. LinkedIn.
How do you spell Daon?
Daon.
All right.
LinkedIn, Conor White, Conor, White, White. Those are probably the best ways, and I'll be happy to answer any and all questions.
Great. Thank you, and have a great HIMSS.
Thank you very much. Cheers, Doug. Thank you.
Cheers.
And so concludes our interview with Conor White, President of New Industries at Daon. For more information on the topics discussed in this episode, visit daon.com. And for more news, interviews, and educational resources on how digital identity is transforming healthcare, stay posted to findbiometrics.com and mobileidworld.com. I would like to thank Conor for joining us on this podcast. Thank you to Doug O'Gordon for conducting the interview. Our podcast theme music is by Logomrad. I have been your host, Peter Counter. Thank you for listening to the ID Talk podcast.